Morning campers. So the hardware's nearly done. Mickey's just working on the IP address scheme for the router and the two switches, which is nearly there in a very basic sense. Just configuring the ports, the gigabit ports, and once we've done that and we've allocated a static IP to the servers, we're at a point where we're going to install Ubuntu 18.04 LTS, I think it is, 0.2, and at that point we're going to use MAS to push the images to the other nodes on the cluster and install the basic operating system. After that there's a element of installing 1-2 bits like Java and things like that, and then we're thinking going for Cloudera as the Hadoop cluster manager and full kind of suite of Hadoop ecosystems. I think that's going to be more productive, but we need to really work on how we're going to distribute the file systems, type of file systems, and I'm thinking that we use, because there's 8 disks in each of the G10 servers, we take 2 of those disks, put them into a RAID array, use the ext4 with an LVM for the operating system and files, so that at a later time we can manage the operating systems much more effectively using LVM. Obviously that makes sense, but the actual data storage for Hadoop and other elements needs to be across the other disks, and for that, if the BIOS allows us in servers, we can just make a JBOD, a bunch of disks, and if we can do a JBOD across those other disks, that'd be cool. Do that as a ext4 file system, and then all the data can go onto those disks and be spread across. Apparently that's more efficient to do it that way. We could use XFS, but I think ext4 might be more stable and configurable. Plus ext4 allows encryption at a later time, or to begin with, I think. Unlike XFS, I don't think that allows it. And we can modify ext4 at a base level. Like, I want to take the timestamps off of when it writes and reads files. Every time it needs to read a file or modify a file, it's got to put a timestamp. That's resource intensive. We don't need that for Hadoop. For the file system, HDFS file system, it's more overhead, so we'll get rid of that in the basic file system when we install it, and it should make it more efficient. Also, I need to look at the block size and other elements like that, the inode size, where the inodes are located, how often they are, and try and make it as efficient to begin with as we can. I've been looking at the Cloudera kind of website and information and PDFs and stuff that describe the best kind of scenarios to move towards. Even though this is not a massive system, there are only 5 nodes, it's not a massive enterprise system located over many data centers, but it should give us kind of to prove the concept and make it a working system. So that's kind of where we're up to. I think Mickey's just doing, is it the router? Yeah. What we're doing with the router?
Static routing.
We're just organising the static routing on the router. So and then it's a matter of just taking care of the switches, and get back to you later.